You were born with individual strengths and a unique purpose. Don't let fears, false beliefs, or life's happenings diminish your influence. It's time to live and lead for impact. Host Kirsten Ross, expert of transformation, will help you defeat the drama and overcome the trauma that can stop you in your tracks. You'll gain focus, find confidence, and take bold action. Unleash passionate, purposeful you. Let's go.
Welcome to Live and Lead for Impact. I'm Kirsten Ross-Vogel, your host and founder of My Impact Academy. Welcome and thanks for joining. I have an amazing guest today, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. His name is Fredrik van Huynh. He's a Swedish-Cambodian award-winning entrepreneur selected as one of the top 25 Swedish entrepreneurs disrupting industries and breaking boundaries around the world. Dad, martial artist, co-founder of Absolute Internship, one of the world's largest internship programs for high school and university students, as well as host of the Fika with Rice podcast. Did I say Fika right?
You did, Kirsten. You did.
Okay.
You're officially Swedish.
Great. Well, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, Kirsten.
Yeah, and I'm so looking forward to learning more about this internship program. I think that is so important because I think students, it's been a bazillion years now, but I remember when, going into college, in high school, I was frustrated and thought, how do I know where I want to go? Because I don't know what I want to be. And so I just went to this big, huge university and figured it out. But then I still felt like I was closing my eyes, and will tell you how long ago it was. We had books, this giant book I went to Michigan State University. So there were tons and tons of options and this humongous book of classes. And it wasn't online back then. And I would flip through it. I felt like I was flipping through it, closing my eyes and pointing to try to grab classes. So I love the idea of this internship, and I'm looking forward to learning more about that. What is your work and what's the main thing you're up to these days?
So I love your story, Kirsten, because I think that I think the majority of students, college students, they don't know what they want to do with their lives. So I think you're just one among the millions and billions out there. So don't worry. And about myself, I think I was in the same boat as you. I don't know how old you are, Kirsten, but I graduated 12 years ago. And back then in Sweden, and we also had our courses as paper format. So that's how I chose my courses too. Time
great.
Flies.
Yes. Is that your main work now? Tell me what you're up to.
Yes. So Absolute Internship, essentially we help students with international internships around the world, both on site where students travel to another city or they do it remotely, so online. Currently, we send students to China, Japan, Singapore, Sweden, Portugal, the UK, Spain, France, and Portugal to do internships. Like right now it's summer, so it's our busiest time of the year. We have students from over 50 countries coming, meeting together, networking and interning in different companies.
That's great. So what kinds of internships are these? And is there a focus on entrepreneurship too, or is it mostly on moving into being an employee within a business?
I think the goal of the program for all the students, they had the same issue as you, Kirsten. They don't know what they want to do with their lives. So part of the program, and one of the purposes of the program, is that they want to test drive their careers, because they invested already so much money in their studies that, let's do an internship to see how it's like in the real world to do a marketing internship or an engineering internship. So we offer over 20 different industries. It really depends on the city, what's the most popular one. So let's say that Paris, perhaps from our side at Absolute Internship, our most popular industries are fashion and PR, but that doesn't mean that you can't do a journalism internship if that's one of your passions, since we have connections with over 1,000 companies around the world.
Wow, that's great. So I think I have an inkling about this, but tell me a little bit more about what experiences motivated you the most to make this unique impact.
I've always loved people, Kirsten. I think that's something that I had since I grew up. Growing up in Sweden as an immigrant child, my parents from Cambodia. Sweden is not as diverse as the US or Canada, which in my opinion are very diverse countries when it comes to people coming from all types of backgrounds. So growing up as a minority, and having parents that were blue collar workers working in factories where I was sort of like, I had big dreams. I went to the library and I got this so much inspiration from books and from my parents to really travel the world and do something, become something. At university, already in college, I was like, they were looking for people to welcome exchange students and international students. And I was like, I would love that, to meet people from like Canada, US, or South America, Africa, and etc. So I did that, and I really loved that. I loved connecting with these people. So I went abroad for a year, Kirsten, where I studied in Shanghai and in Japan. There, I had those experiences had such a great impact on me, where I lived 6 months in China, 6 months in Japan, where I had a lot of low moments, but I had a lot of high moments, and I met a lot of amazing people. And this entire experience really helped me grow like tremendously, both privately but also professionally. And what I was thinking was, it would be amazing to get this to other people. So when I was in Japan, I had 3 classmates. They were looking for summer internships. And this was before Airbnb, before booking.com, before like you could go online and be like, okay, I'm looking for an internship. Let's go to China. Just to give you an example, when I moved to China, I had to basically hit the streets and look for real estate agents who would then help me find an apartment to stay. It was that complicated. So I helped these 3 classmates with summer internships in China, because I had made some friends who were interns in China. One of them were interning for the Beijing Olympics, for example. So these 3 classmates from the US, I helped them get these internships. And a few months later, one of them checked in with me again, and I was like, oh, how was it in China? It's been a while now. And he said, you know what, the internship were great, but we didn't have such a great time. And I was like, why? And he said, well, we didn't meet a lot of friends. It was hard to make friends, and it was so complicated to find accommodation just for the summer. And fast forward, I didn't think about it that too much, Kirsten, but fast forward, once I graduated, I had moved to Thailand. I always wanted to live in Asia and test life in Asia, as a professional. So I was living in Bangkok at that time. And this Friday evening, I was watching Sopranos, which back then was my favorite TV series.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it is a good one. I just finished an episode, and I was like, you know what? What's this summer internships about, So I Googled summer internships, just these 2 words. And what popped up was this company in the US that were selling and organizing internship programs in New York City. And they were charging $12,000 per student, and they had 400 students each year, and the majority were from the US. So I was like, why would an American student, somebody from the US, pay $12,000 to intern domestically? You could do this for like 4 times less interning in China, where the future is. So at around the same time, I bought this book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Back then, it just got released. Right now, I'm sure a lot of people have read it. It's an amazing book. Highly recommend it. And it sort of became such an inspiration for me, sort of like the Bible. Like, wow, I would love to do this. I would love to like work remotely. I would love to create a company where me and anyone in the team could work remotely. And back then in Thailand, I was not working. I had this eBay business where I was selling soccer jerseys and made a whooping $500 per month. But it didn't, I mean, you live a good life in Thailand, but you can't save, you cannot travel too much with that. So that's how I thought about the idea of summer internships, and I was like, you know what? Let's create a business of this, and let's start to send students to China and Hong Kong. And that's how Absolute Internship was created.
Wow, that's great. And so how long have you been doing this? How many students have you served?
Sure. We were founded 12 years ago in 2009. And at the moment, we've served over 6,000 students.
That's great. So pick one student that you can think of. I know it's going to be difficult with so many, but tell me the impact that you made for one student that you can think of that really fuels your own passion for continuing to do this work.
Yes, I think it's a very, very good question. I was in Beijing in 2017. We welcomed a group of students, and one of these students was from the Midwest, never been abroad, from a very small town. And once he arrived, I saw how lost he felt. No one spoke English in Beijing. Taking the subway, living in this really huge city and being completely out of his comfort zone. And I told him, don't worry, like in 6 weeks, once you finish your program, you're going to be a completely changed person. He went on doing his internship and so on. And the last week of his program with us, he was like, Freddie, can I talk to you for a second? I was like, yes. You know what? This has been such an amazing experience. I'm being completely outside of my comfort zone. I've completely grown professionally, but also privately. I see the world in a different way. I met people from all around the world, and it has completely changed me. And I wished more people from my town in the US could have the same experience as me, because I'm sure they would see the world differently. Because what he told me before that was that people from his town went to the same church. People from his town was voting for the same party in the US. And he said their way of thinking was really limited. And what he was trying to tell me was, thanks to this program, thanks to this experience, he was able to see the world in a different way and become more tolerant. And he was telling me afterwards, once he left the program and said goodbye to China, that he became a much tolerant person. But also he said, if people in his town could see the world the way he saw it, he thought that the world would be a much better place. And that was really, it really struck in my heart, Kirsten, that, we're not only selling internships, but we're actually changing people's lives for the better.
I love that. Yeah. So it's not just about gaining that experience to go on to, find a better career, but changing perspectives on, beyond the bounds of where you've lived. So learning more about the world, making those connections across the globe. That's awesome. I love that story. So tell me the services that you provide for someone. So if someone's listening right now, I guess, we have potentially both sides of the equation here. We might have some people who are like, I want to go do this internship. So talk to me first about those kinds of services. What all do you offer? It sounds like there's networking opportunities as well, and then, for businesses that want to participate.
Sure. I mean, I don't want it to sound like an ad, but
I want to know. Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity, Kirsten. We serve both high school students and university students. Can be from all around the world. We welcome, like I said, students from 50 different countries annually. And students can choose to do this program remotely all year round. They can choose to do it for 2 months, 3 months. It's really up to the student. And then you can also do it on site. So students can apply, they can join our program during the summer, fall, spring, winter. And they can do that in Portugal, Sweden, China, Hong Kong, Singapore, UK, France, Spain. I hope I didn't miss any, but it's all on our website on absoluteinternship.com. And students can choose to do different types of internships. Like I said a little bit earlier, we offer internships in 20 different industries. So you might be a business major and you want to try to do a business internship. That's completely fine. But you might be a business major and you want to do something creative, a graphic design internship. We will welcome you to do that as well through our connections. So when it comes to networking, it's a great program for networking as well. If you're looking to meet people and students that are ambitious, literally from all around the world, it's a great investment, I would say, in your career. When it comes to the companies, because that was the other side of the equation, we work with over 1,000 companies in all spectrums, all around the world, both remotely, but also on site. And there's no cost for companies. Since the cost and the tuition is bared by the universities or the students themselves. And if companies are interested, feel free to reach out to us at absoluteinternship.com.
Great. And then are you helping them find accommodations now? It sounded like that was one of the challenges initially.
Exactly, we do. So all the students, they stay together in all their locations.
Great. Well, thank you for that. So tell me, as you work to initiate this great program, what has been the biggest internal or external challenge that you personally have had to overcome, and how did you overcome that?
We've had a lot of challenges, Kirsten. I think since myself starting Absolute Internship, I basically did that once I graduated from the get-go. And I think today anyone can be an entrepreneur. You can go on Instagram, and the only thing you can do and have to do is just change your bio to entrepreneur. But that doesn't mean that you're an entrepreneur and have the experience. I think one of the biggest challenges that I had was building a team. We have grown so quickly since year one, basically, where we've been making money from year one, and it's been hard to allocate that into building a team that's been sustainable. Just give you an example, we had 3 offices for a while. We had one in Hong Kong, London, and Shanghai. When you don't have a lot of work experience, when you don't have a lot of entrepreneurial experience, it's not easy to manage a team with a lot of people across different type of time zones. And I think that was one of the biggest challenges. And the way we solved it was basically centralizing everything in one office and then moving to a remote team and reading a lot of books, Kirsten.
Well, too bad you didn't find me. One of the things I do is help leaders build high-performing teams.
It is true. It is true.
I share leadership, communication, selection strategies. Yep. And help businesses overcome the friction that can happen while scaling or working with family. So yeah, that can be a challenge though. Yeah,
it is true. And I think also back then, coaches, and it wasn't as widespread as it is today, so it was not as easy to find somebody to support us, if that makes sense. If you just go back like 4 years, it wasn't that easy,
Right. Well, and it's funny, I started doing this work over 20 years ago, and human resource wise about 30, but coaching about 20. So yeah. I used to have to explain what coaching was, and now I don't. But anyway, well, thank you for that. And I totally get that. If anyone's listening and you're experiencing some similar difficulties with building your team, make sure to check out myimpactacademy.com/join, where you can find all kinds of audio, video, and PDF downloads to help you with building your team, leading them well, getting them aligned and fired up and engaged in your work. Tell me, for those listening who are working to make their own impact in the world, how do you stay motivated and moving during the tough times that are inevitable when you're an entrepreneur?
One trick that I've used is this mental like trick that I play on myself, where I wake up early and I think about tough times that I had in the past when we grew the company and, couldn't take out the salary for 4 years, really like grinding and thinking about bad times, and then using that as a fuel, as motivation. That's one thing. The second thing is that I like to watch motivational videos on YouTube. There's so many out there. Just Google motivational videos. You'll find speeches from The Rock, from Damon John, Mark Cuban. There's a lot of people out there with a lot of motivational speeches that helps me, that fuels me. A third thing that I do, Kirsten, is I read a lot of books. I've always been a big reader because when I grew up, I didn't have mentors because my family, like I said, I'm the first one to go to university. So my parents were blue collar workers, and my mom told me very early on that, we don't have the network or the friends who can help you with like professional advice. So you need to get that from books. So I try to read a book per month or a book every 2 weeks. And I like to read things that resonate with me, because there's so many books out there. So I think books that really resonate with me and motivates me, and that really helps and gives you a lot of perspectives in life and for the business.
Oh, I'm a bookaholic too. So tell me, what are some recent favorites?
I think one recent favorite that struck out a lot has been Shoe Dog by the founder of Nike. I don't know if you read that, but that's a book that it's if you're looking for like an entrepreneurial journey of somebody and the struggles and how he succeeded, how he built a team. It's a fantastic read and super easy to read, and a book that I read just in a week, because it was so motivational. So I plan to reread it this summer, actually.
That's great. Well, we'll put that one in the show notes as well. So as we wrap up, what are some words of wisdom that you have for other, like you shared so many tips, which is great, but what are some words of wisdom that you have for others who want to make their own impact in the world?
That an overnight success. My mother said to me when I started Absolute Internship that, are you ready to grind for 10, 15 years to create something successful? And I was like, why do you say that? Because he said, from my humble life, what I've seen from people, that it takes 10 to 15 years to build something sustainable. And I think today, Kirsten, we have social media, we have information everywhere, on our screens. We see watches, we see handbags, we see fancy clothes, we see experiences, we see five-star hotels. And I think people that want to have an impact, that are entrepreneurs or business leaders, I think it's important to think, all right, what am I willing to sacrifice? How many years forward am I willing to sacrifice, and what am I willing to sacrifice in order to get what I really want in life? Because there's no overnight success like where you build something and it takes like 2 months or whatever, because that's not sustainable. So I think that's something that I would love to share with the audience.
Great words of wisdom. Yeah, we live in such a instant gratification world, and if you set your sights on becoming an instant millionaire overnight, you're probably going to be disappointed, frustrated, resigned, all of those negative feelings. So instead, work to take step by step and be ready to wear a lot of hats, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much, Fredrik, for taking the time to share with the audience today, and for the great work that you're doing. Again, I love how you're giving the opportunity for so many students to gain a world perspective and get that great experience to help them move into work that they love. I'm sure you feel privileged that you get to do work that you love. And I know I do. And many people don't have that opportunity. They kind of do that lazy river way of living life where they bump along, and wherever life takes them, that's kind of their next move. And a lot of times people end up in careers that they're not really, it's not really aligned with their passions. And so I love that you're giving them that opportunity to test the waters and before they make the big investment of time and money, and again, gain that perspective and meet people from across the globe so they can have a larger worldview.
I agree. And, well said, Kirsten, because I think there's a lot of people who are choosing careers just because of the financial money, the packages that they get. I remember we had one student, a Thai student, international student, who went to one of the best schools in the UK, like literally one of the best schools in the world. And one of his biggest dreams was to work for JP Morgan, one of the biggest investment banks in the world, where you make a lot of money. And for an international student, it's really, really difficult to land a graduate job with an investment bank like that abroad. He was able to do that through a very, very rigorous recruitment process. And I met him during the first year when he was working. He was working 19 to 20 hours a day. And I was like, are you happy? And he was like, you know what? I thought this is what I wanted, but I don't have time to see my partner. I don't have time to go to the gym even, because I have to always be at work. I don't even have time to do the laundry. And no, I don't think it's worth it. And I would love to do something different. So I think a lot of people should be taking sort of like a mental check, or like really check in with themselves internally, what they want to do with life, if this is what makes them happy, and take that leap of faith, because you never know when life stops, because life is really short.
Yeah. Well, and I think to your point too, being able to design work and life so they work well together, and that one isn't overshadowing the other completely. I mean, the 4-hour work week, of course, is all about that.
Yes.
But being intentional about having that nice balance where you're not working to live.
Yes. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And if you want to connect with Fredrik to learn more about his Absolute Internship or anything else about his work or him, we'll have all the links to his social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, available on today's show notes. And you can find those by going to defeatthedrama.com, click on the podcast tab, and go to episode 291. You'll also find, as I shared, Fredrik just gave me that perfect lead in. I don't normally talk about it during the episode, but myimpactacademy.com/join, where you can get 2 weeks free of the Impact Academy that I created, that gives you about 20 years of my work, video, audio, PDF download, about personal growth, leadership, healthy communication and relationships, all the different topics organized and available at your fingertips 24/7. So do check that out as well. And thank you, Fredrik, again, and make it a great day and have a great rest of your day.
A lot of gratitude for having me on the show, Kirsten. Thank you.